This review has been made possible by Toyota of Naperville. As you know, Toyota has tons of brand new Toyotas available for purchase, but did you know that they also have a remarkable selection of used cars? Head on over to toyotaofnaperville.com and look through hundreds of used cars for sale right now.
Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2006 Toyota RAV4 Limited. Up front is a 2.4 liter inline 4, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I'm super excited to be driving this here 3rd gen RAV4 for a couple of reasons. One of those being the fact that you guys love old Toyotas, I love old Toyotas, and yes, to me, this is considered now an old Toyota. However, I have plenty of nostalgia with it, and I'll be sharing that with you guys later. The second reason is the fact that I love the 2nd gen RAV4. You guys did too, and so hopefully we'll share some of that love for the 3rd gen. I think there's some striking resemblances, but also some updates. But before we get on with the rest of the video, I have a website, zackprado.com, where you could submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me, or you could read my blog. I give behind the scenes looks at what I'm filming, what's going on in my life, and things like that in relation to cars and reviews, as well as you can buy merchandise. I sell stickers and more stuff planned on the way. Or you could submit your vehicle if you'd like to pradoreviews@gmail.com. All that information is down in the description below. But let's get back to that 2.4 liter inline 4 under the hood. It makes 166 horsepower and 165 foot-pounds of torque. Now, this was not the only engine offered here in this 3rd generation RAV4. You could also get the 3.5 liter V6 that was made famous by the Camry, Tacoma, things like that. However, this particular one is not the V6, so we won't be talking about that today. I like the RAV4. It drives like a mid-2000s Toyota. Pretty bland, pretty basic. I'm not being thrown back in my seat, but maybe the 3.5 V6 would do that. All right, I'm not opening the window because it's way too cold, but I'll do an acceleration test for you. It's finally warmed up here. It's fine. I'm not being blown away, but it's adequate enough. You won't feel too underpowered. Like I said, paired to it, 4-speed automatic transmission. Again, nothing crazy. That's really not the name of the game when it comes to the RAV4, and so to be expected there. Last but not least, this here RAV4 is 4-wheel drive. With that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 3 gauges. On the left is my tachometer, in the center is my speedometer, and on the right, I have my coolant temperature and fuel. I also get a little digital readout for my odometer, outside temperature, and gear selector. And on the steering wheel, on the left, I have my mode, volume, and skip track. Very, very reminiscent of Scions of the same era. And on the other side, just like Scions, there's no other buttons, so it's an asymmetrical steering wheel. Off to the left, I do have my dimmer switch, and I get this little cubby. I'm not sure what you could really put in here, but I guess it's nice that you have it. I don't know. On the door, we have the lock and unlock, child locks, and my power windows. And then moving into the center, we have 2 climate control vents and the head unit. This is the Limited, which was the upper trim level of the RAV4 for the era. And so this came with JBL speakers, which is a very nice upgrade. And I get a CD player and an aux input, which for 2006, big props. To the left of the radio, that's where I find my 4-wheel drive lock button. Very, very interesting for a little RAV4. Down below that, I have my climate controls. They're these big dials, these circle buttons, which I really, really like. Nothing too crazy here. I do have temperature, fan speed, defrost, where to send it, as well as I do have dual zone, which, okay, that is a nice feature to be had. I also get a clock and a little digital readout up above the climate controls. That is very nice. And off to the right, I normally don't talk about the glove boxes because they're all the same unless they're interesting, and this one is. I actually have an upper sort of glove box that opens up to a shelf. Very interesting here. I've seen shelves in cars before. I assume this is a safety measure, so if you're in an accident, there aren't projectiles flying at you. Moving down onto the center console, I have a cubby, and down below that, I have my heated seat options, which it's interesting. You just get left or right. You don't get any different levels of heated seats. It's just left or right. So pick your poison there. And then I get a 12-volt outlet off to the right. Then we do have cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the RAV4. And while the bottle is touching the climate controls ever so slightly, it actually does fit. And I've been driving around with my bottle in the cup holder and it hasn't been shifting around too much and will stay in place. So I give the 2006 Toyota RAV4 a pass on the big friggin' bottle test. Then we have the shifter. This is the jigsaw style shifter from Toyota. They've used this since the 90s and up until this year. They still use it. Pretty basic. And then I have my mirror adjustments. Down below that, I do have a physical parking brake, an actual pull handle. And then I get a center console. This is where you'll find your aux input as well as another 12-volt outlet. The seats are nice and comfortable. They are power, they are heated, which are great, especially today. It's 13 degrees Fahrenheit. I am pleasantly enjoying my heated seat. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats. Let's go do a back seat review. Have a little story to tell. All right, so we're in the back of the 2006 Toyota RAV4 Limited, and a couple of things to note back here before I share my personal story. Knee room, great. Headroom, great. And as you can see, you can recline these seats as they are reclined, which is fantastic. Not a lot of SUVs allow that. Like even modern day Mazda CX-5s, you can't actually recline the seats. So very, very nice that the RAV4 enabled that. I do have these nets on the back of the seats that are super stretchy. And other than that, nothing really too crazy. The thing I want to share is the reason I have so much nostalgia back here, and actually just sitting back here is kind of bringing memories back. A really good friend of mine had one of these in high school, and living in the Midwest, there's not a whole lot to do around here. When we were bored, we would get together with friends, and we would literally just drive around. No destination. I know a lot of people who don't live in the Midwest don't understand this. We would just drive around aimlessly for like hours and listen to music and talk and laugh. And there was a game that we would play while driving around called Padiddle. The object of the game was that any time you drove through a yellow light, or if you saw a car with a headlight out, you had to slap the ceiling and say Padiddle. The person that slapped the ceiling last, or didn't see the yellow light we went through, or didn't see the car with the headlight out, they would have to take an article of clothing off. And one particular night, I was not very observant, and I lost that game quite a few times, a lot of times, and it was embarrassing. But that's just the fun that we had. That was the game. And there were other times that people lost way worse than I did. And so it was all fine. We were in high school. It didn't matter. We were, I think, sophomores and juniors in high school. Who cares? But those are the memories that I have in this back seat, which is just funny. Let's go take a quick look at the trunk, and we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the RAV4. Open the door. It actually swings out. And so that's as far as it goes. Very, very interesting. You don't really see SUVs with a door hinged like that anymore. However, once we are in here, we do have tie downs. Oh, I guess we do have cup holders for the second row. And I can lower the second row at the flip of a switch, which is nice. I can also pull this up and have this giant storage space. Although this strap is terrible to hold. There we go. Oh, okay. So you get a giant storage space down here, as well as there's another pull tab, and you get more storage down there. Very, very versatile. You could pack a ton of stuff in here, and I really, really miss that about cars. I mean, this just feels like a wide open space. This is like Montana compared to some other SUVs. And of course, you also get a JBL speaker around right there. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I think this is sort of bland-ish, but that was the mid-2000s. That's what cars looked like in that era. And I do want to point out this is finished in a silver color, and I rarely ever see them in silver. I've seen them in blue, I've seen them in black, I've seen them a lot in black, but I felt like silver was kind of a rare color. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong with that. Maybe I just grew up around other colored ones, but very interesting, at least to me. Let's get to my final thoughts here on the 2006 Toyota RAV4. Well, I have two different lanes I want to go down. First of all, let's talk about it in relation to the second generation RAV4 that I reviewed last winter. I don't know why I only review RAV4s when it's freezing cold out. Odd little pattern there. This is where you start to notice the RAV4 is starting to go away from fun, adventurous off-roader into just regular, everyday SUV. It still has that sort of little flair about it with that four-wheel drive locking switch. And something that other RAV4s can't say is that this feels light and nimble like the second gen RAV4. The second gen RAV4 was light on its feet. Not as much as the first gen, they've slowly gotten heavier and more numb, but this still grasps onto that second gen's joy ever so slightly. It still has the tire mounted to the back, something that has gone away from RAV4s. It has great visibility, something that I really noticed with the second gen and now with the third gen, and I really like all that stuff. But my other final thoughts, the other lane I wanted to go down was memory lane. As I shared that story earlier with the back seat, I had a couple of close friends growing up in high school that drove some of these. My neighbor drove one. My good friend Megan drove one, and eventually her best friend ended up buying a nearly identical one. And so I spent a lot of time in these, and I have nothing but fond memories of them. I remember the late nights, going to Andy's Frozen Custard and getting a Boot Daddy. That was one of the custard cups that they sold. It was called the Boot Daddy. Or the James Brownie Jackhammer. Those were my two go-tos. And we would sit in the car and laugh and listen to music. And at that point, we didn't know any better. We thought that was what everyone did all the time. But now as an adult, I'm nearing 25, and I know some of you will say, oh, that's still young, but I'm talking about 8 or 9 years ago for me. I'm starting to realize that those were some of the best times ever. Doing nothing, driving around doing nothing, playing padiddle in the back seat. This generation of RAV4 has always spoken to me and said, I am upbeat, I'm fun, and I'm just ready to hang out and experience life. These aren't very serious cars. I can't imagine dressing up in a suit and tie and shining my shoes and walking out to my RAV4. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But driving around, getting ice cream, playing the stereo probably way too loud, that's what this car has always said to me. And I miss those times. I really do. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota of Naperville for letting me take out their 2006 RAV4. I'm so glad I was able to reminisce a little bit with this car. And that's all thank you to them. They are absolutely awesome. We've been working together for over 3 years. Awesome customer service. They have great vehicles on the lot, not just Toyotas, tons of other brands as well. And so if you're looking for a new car, Toyota Naperville should be your first stop. Their information is up on the screen as well as linked in the description below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.